Hello and welcome back, adventurers. Sit back, get comfy, and let me take you on a journey through the land of Souragne. Along with amber wastes, Souragne is one of the warmest known lands. But contrasting the waste and desert, this land is plagued by a very high level of humidity. In fact, simply walking for a minute or two under the sun causes the average person to sweat. However, with a nice, cool iced herbal tea on the veranda, this weather is much more bearable than the desert. The very warm and humid temperature is depressingly the same at night, making sleep quite difficult. In the early hours of the morning, a short, hot rain often dampens the accumulated dust. We haven't experienced it yet, but the end of the summer brings the rain season, which lasts about 2 months. During this period, we were told that the rain can pour for days on end, and the temperature are only slightly cooler. After the water traveled from the northwestern nocturnal sea, near Neverchar Springs, I used the mistway named the Wake of the Loa. There, the fog dissipates to a sea of muddy color, giving its name the Murky Sea. During the day, many small fishing boats are seen on it, drifting lazily while the fishermen watch over their nests. The fishermen mostly catch dull-colored bony fishes that are tasty but unpleasant to eat. The Murky Sea is where a lot of Port d'Allure inhabitants get their food they eat, unless they work for a plantation and get paid for their work. Since the waves are low and the people poor, many small fishing boats are just a few inches over the water level. In all the realms that float within the mists, there must be no place more hostile to human life than the Souragnian swamps. In the shades of the weeping willows and cypresses reside the most deadly contagions, the most dangerous animals, and the most aggressive plants ever discovered. Worse, a fair dose of supernatural creatures also roam these bogs. The marsh covers at least 2/3 of Souragne. The dominant color of this area is green and it blooms with life. Plants grow and die quickly, leaving room and nutrients for more. In there, many edible animals live and useful wood grows quick. In fact, it offers many resources to the most adventurous Souragners, but it's important to say that most of the swamp visitors never wander far from the view of the bordering solid ground, and most probably never wandered farther than Lac Noir. The outer border of the swamp is a forest of willow trees and thick bushes. This tangled wood drains the soil and forms a barrier of solid earth to keep the swamp enclosed. Beyond this thick patch is a web-like network of creeks and streams. A vast array of mosses and mushrooms cover the swamps, with lily pads, flowers, and frightening number of carnivorous tree creatures. If it's leafy and kills people, it's in the Souragne swamps. On these borders, it's not uncommon to meet Souragners coming to the banks to try for catfish, shrimps, or crawfish, or to collect wild rice, medicinal plants, or cutting wood. They stay in or near the flat-bottomed boats and keep an eye out for dangerous reptiles. More than just a hindrance to travelers, the swamps of Souragne are a very real threat to life and limb. The muddy waters of the swamp are known to be toxic, forcing the natives to drink from the stores of rainwater. However, in the deep regions of the swamp grows a species of tree-climbing vine, known to the natives as rain shoots. These thick, grey creepers are usually covered in a dull green moss. Once cut open, these vines begin to drip water in a slow but steady flow. Though the rain shoot is but one producer of fresh water, most other sources prove more trouble than they're worth. Case in point is the frog fountain, a rare and beautiful flower found in the trees of the swamp. These large orange and cream-colored blooms catch the plentiful rainwater and store them within the petals. Unfortunately, the local wildlife prizes the blooms as nests. Some areas where these flowers grow are home to snakes and other predators, and also to rare species of toads, known as poison dart frogs. So deadly are these amphibians, said our guide, that even touching their brightly colored skin may cause illness or death. The marsh ground is muddy at best or covered with tea-colored water. Languid ribbons of mist drift slowly on the ground. Here and there, a few sandy or rocky islands in the swamps have solid ground. Most are said to be inhabited by supernatural creatures, like Wudan or ill-famed were crocodile. Peat bogs and quicksand are common in the waterlogged soil. These lethal hazards are nearly indistinguishable from the local environment, luring even experienced trekkers into danger. Experiment has shown that these bogs preserve their victims, leaving a body intact for decades, and perhaps even centuries. Local superstition holds that such bogs trap not only the body, but also the soul of its victims. It is said that should a body ever be freed of the bog, it would rise as a hideous creature to terrorize the living. The muddy bogs of the swamp sometimes trap the natural process of decomposition under a thick layer of mud or peat. The decaying matter creates a miasma called swamp gas, which ferments under its covering, becoming a reeking cloud of noxious fumes. Even more dangerous, these gases are known to be highly flammable. Upon escape, should gases be subject to ignition, they may explode, with a force up to a small barrel of gunpowder. Many animals live in the swamp, of which the infamous hungry alligator is a king. One may just see his eyes over the water, so travelers learn quickly to avoid this. Sometimes, these fierce animals do not even hesitate to try to get into a flat-bottomed boat if the opportunity presents. At night, bats of all sizes are seen in the moonlight, preying on insects. Several of larger bats hunt any living creature for their blood. These are the infamous Cerenius vampire bats. In the middle of the swamp, a large lake stands about a mile wide. The surface of Lac Noir is thick with water lilies and algae. The name of this lake comes from a blackish wild berry made by a plant growing around the algae. The berries detach and float 2 times per year, making the surface of the water look black. A small island of solid ground is found in the middle of Lac Noir, and rumors say that this sandy island is the home of the Law of the Swamp, a droid-esque fey creature said to be benevolent. Many have tried to reach the Maiden of the Swamp, but none were able to lay their eyes on her. On the eastern side of Lac Noir, near the dry land border, a peculiar island stands in the marsh. This small patch of land is completely devoid of vegetation, except a massive, black-barked, mean-looking willow tree. The place is well known to most Ceronian, who nicknamed the island the Black Willow. Legends say that a plantation was formerly in this location, before the swamp gnawed at its land, owned by a wicked owner who killed a servant girl he had an affair with under this tree for fear of losing his status. Haunted by remorse, he hung himself. The Ceronians say that the swamp swallowed the plantation within less than a year. The southern parts of the marshes are filled with hidden and particularly treacherous patches of quicksand. In this area, a lonely plantation stands. This vast mansion is the rumored home of the Lord of the Dead, the Dark Lord of Souragne. Thank you so much for your time, patient listeners. Next time, we will discuss the Lord of the Dead and how he achieved his title. But for now, as always, be careful while crossing the mists.